these are some great recommendations. You got any others? I'll stop putting you on the spot after this.
God, I'm running
actually,
out
let
here.
me give you a question before I just keep trying to just squeeze.
Do I need to go downstairs and look at my collection?
Yeah.
Just
No, let me ask you this instead, because I'm clearly I'm bleeding the well over here from Keith too much. But the RE3 remake, is it worth me buying? With the recent showcase of the PlayStation 5 and the announcement over the last year of Xbox Scarlet, we know we're coming to the end of the generation of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. And that kind of brings up the question, is it worth jumping in at the last minute to catch up on a console if you hadn't purchased it yet, even with these new consoles kind of looming in the distance, soon to be released? That's what we're going to be talking about today on another exciting edition of A Cast of the Past, which you can check out each and every Sunday. Joining me today, Keith Hamilton from London, Ontario.
Hi.
Keith, how's it going? First of all.
Good, you?
Good.
My late PS4 adopting friend.
Yes, that's going to be my story. But before we get into that, again, just wanted to say it's a two-man crew, Keith and I. For those wondering, we're doing a kind of two-man rotation for a couple weeks in a row, but our bigger extended episodes are always going to be a three-man crew, barring
come next week. It should be, barring catastrophe. Come next week, we should all be back together to talk about a fun little video game from the Super Nintendo era.
Oh yes, and that will be quite exciting. But jumping back into this conversation about jumping in, a lot of jumping, but getting
like
into
Mario.
A console, kind of the last, the procrastinator, if you will, getting in at the last minute before the end of a console's life cycle. And I wanted to ask you, Keith, we're going to be talking about me and the PS4 today, but for you, have you ever done that with a console? Towards the end of the life cycle, bought the console, you get a bunch of discount games. Has there been a console in the past that you have done this for?
It's only happened to me once, and that was with the Nintendo GameCube. It was near the end of its life cycle. I'd never really been interested in a GameCube until I started talking to yourself and Juan back in the day, and I became very interested in this little game called WrestleMania 19. So I ended up buying a GameCube just for that, and then ended up checking out other games that came out for it along the way, like your big ones, like Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Mario Sunshine, and all of that. It was really cool and a little overwhelming to just have this library, and I'm sure it's even more overwhelming these days with the frequency that games come out, but just to have this whole library that you can check out and be like, okay, this is a starting point. These are all the things I want to hit, and then maybe I'll check out a thing or two along the way. It's actually kind of fun, and I wish I did it more, but it's become a thing now these days where I either get in on the ground room floor, or about a year later, or I just skip it entirely. Like the Wii U came and went, never even touched it. This generation...
That's when I got in late too.
This generation, I never owned an Xbox One, and at this point, I probably won't. I'll just look at the Scarlet once that comes out, so I'll probably end up skipping that entirely. But there is this cool, mysticism behind the exclusives for it. There is a good chance that unless it comes to Game Pass, I will miss all of the Halo games from the Xbox One generation, and kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
So yeah, for me, I have done this in the past with the PlayStation 2. I did get it way late in the life cycle. Again, it was to play a wrestling game. It was for SmackDown versus Raw 2006. And then I ended up getting, a couple other games like Shadow of the Colossus and things like that. So I got to experience a lot of great things. But then, of course, I got a PlayStation 3 fully backwards compatible and ended up selling off my PS2. But and I also did this for the Wii U. I did get in late on the Wii U, but it was more because the damn Switch still doesn't have a virtual console, and I wanted to get all my Zelda games and all that in kind of one master console, and the Wii U was able to provide that. I think it's a great experience, Yeah, for honestly, for Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, having the second controller is actually better than even the Switch experience. So I would say that was the reason for that. But this is a little bit different. I recently bought a PlayStation 4, and oh god, wrong image. But anyway, video version, folks, you might have saw something a little weird there. But I recently got a PlayStation 4, which means I have a ton of games to catch up on. Anyone who's saying, oh, why would you do that? They just announced the PS5. I'm probably not going to get a PS5 right away, let's be honest.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Like, for multiple reasons, especially with this console generation, there's not a lot of reason to just rush out and get a PS5 unless you're like a die-hard need to play the new shiny thing video gamer. Like, with there being potential issues with supply and still not knowing the price of these things, even though they're supposed to come out in a couple months, that leads me to believe that they might be on the expensive side. There's a lot of reason to be hesitant about these new consoles, and maybe wait a year, maybe wait 2 years. And if you're going to wait 2 years and still like argue why wouldn't you just wait for that new system, well, you could be having fun for those 2 years, so maybe just invest in the cheaper thing, get all you can out of it, and then when the time is right, when things have figured themselves out both in the world and in the market of video games, then maybe look at those new consoles. That's kind of where my head's at right now anyway.
Yeah, the way I looked at it was, there's a bunch of games I just wanted to play now, especially with the hype of, The Last of Us 2. And I needed to go back and play The Last of Us. And, I could do that on the PS3, but of course there's a remastered PS4 edition, all that.
And that's a really good remaster.
Yeah. So I got a PS4 Pro. Again, another justification. You wait, and they sometimes release a better, more powerful version of the system.
I just have a base PS4 because I couldn't justify going out and getting a Pro.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, I ended up getting the PS4 Pro. There's tons of games for me to start at. I have already started playing a game. I started with Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which it's Samurai Dark Souls is what it is.
You're a big fan of the Souls games, so that seems like a very good starting point for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I know there's a bunch of other games, and I can go over the ones I've picked up so far. That obviously I haven't played yet. I'm still just at the beginning of Sekiro, but I've picked up both Last of Us Remastered, Last of Us 2, God of War, Bloodborne, which again is another Dark Souls game.
Another great pick for
another
you.
Dark Souls-like game. Uncharted 4. And then I believe that I got let me look at my shelf.
So you basically picked up Sony's greatest hits. You've started with like the base exclusives.
Yes. Oh, well, yeah. I ended up with everything going on. It's kind of hard to find a lot of consoles right now during quarantine and everything. People are buying them off the shelves, but I was able to buy it through PlayStation.com. They had a bunch of games for $20, so I went for that. Also, I picked up Final Fantasy VII Remake and Jedi Fallen Order. Target had a buy two get one free, so I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna buy three $60 games to get maximum like value there.
Absolutely.
So that's the current library I have. Obviously there is a multitude of PlayStation 4 games out there, so Keith, who has had the PS4 for quite a while now, I wanted to get his take. He knows the games that I just listed off, but what areas should I cover? If you're going to guide me through the world of PlayStation 4 games to pick up, what are some areas, aside from the ones I listed, what areas am I missing? What should I be checking out?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me is the fact you didn't say RE2 Remake. Which
I knew,
is
I
a
figured
crime.
that was coming. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. Like, honestly, it's really hard to... outside of the realm of exclusives, it's kind of tough to recommend anything because, well, like, there's these great experiences. Like, I could recommend things like RE2 Remake. I could recommend Red Dead 2. If you haven't played GTA 5 on this generation, like, that's a great looking game, even though you can play it on your fridge at this point.
I played it on PS3. I do have the PC version. I don't think I need to get it again.
But why not get another version? Because it's like
I know.
$10.
Yeah, GTA 5, they were like, Skyrim, hold my beer, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. They're in some sort of arms race, Bethesda and Rockstar, of who can release their game on the most consoles. But yeah, as far as third-party stuff goes, those games that I mentioned, like RE2 Remake, like, oh god, what else did I say? Like, I totally blanked on
Final
what
Fantasy? Was that? No, that's not an exclusive, right?
Or that is an exclusive.
God of War. So I will also say I do have Spider-Man.
Okay.
Spider-Man.
Again, another great exclusive that you need to play.
So my roommate had a PS4, and before I moved out, I did buy Spider-Man and started playing it. I never finished it, and then now I moved out. But I'm gonna start over anyway.
That is a game that really just like it sunk its hooks into me. There's one or two games a year that I get like really, really into, and I like that's where I have my like, oh, I sat down to play this and then 6 hours just passed. Like Spider-Man is one of those for me, and I can't recommend it enough. One thing that came to mind that both Juan and myself are big fans of, that you can get pretty cheap these days, because really that's one of the biggest benefits, in my opinion, to coming to consoles so late in the life cycle that a lot of these games are discounted. Like
I
now,
said, I got a bunch of these for $20, and that's PlayStation.com. I'm sure if I hunted a little bit better, I could find them even cheaper.
Yeah, like once Black Friday comes, you can probably pick up most of the catalog for a cup of coffee at this point. But one thing that I can't recommend enough is the Yakuza franchise. Both Juan and myself are huge fans of it. And much like you did with the Wii U and Zelda, or Sony is doing with the PlayStation and Yakuza, where by the end of the console's life cycle, all of the Yakuza games are going to be available on the PS4. Right now we have 0, the remake of 1 and 2, 3, and 6. I think 4 and 5 are still aren't out yet, but it's a great, very not well known franchise that deserves all of the credibility in the world. If you like dumb action movies, which I know you do, then the Yakuza movies.
So is 0 the
games.
one to start? The one you guys
Yes,
is that Zero's, where Juan started?
Yeah, 0 is the one to start with. It's not the first one that came out, but it's a prequel that just sets up for everything. And in my opinion, it's the best one. You need to check out the Yakuza.
Okay. All right. So far, Keith has given me homework for RE2 and Yakuza 0. Now, what about Witcher? So Witcher is one I've contemplated getting even for the Switch at the time. But clearly now with the PS4 Pro, it seems like if I'm going to get Witcher 3, it should be obviously on the PS4 Pro. Do you have any experience with that series?
I do. I've beaten The Witcher 3. And it's one of those games that like I would recommend it, but I would recommend it with an asterisk. And that's where a lot of games in this generation's fall, unless they're exclusives, where I would recommend it for consoles, but if you're gonna get a version of it, the PC version is probably the way to go. So if you're looking for a console experience of The Witcher, 100% go for it. But I don't think that's the definitive version of that game.
Are you saying PC for mods, or is there any other aspect of why the PC version is the best?
PC for mods, that's a big part of it, but it's also the interface, where it was a game that was more built for PC, so there's a little bit of clunkiness when it comes to going through inventory, at least in my opinion, with a controller, where it's just more seamless with mouse and keyboard. So that's why I would I don't want to take anything away from the console version, but the PC version I think is better.
Okay, noted. Well, my PC, I just don't think I would be able to get the full experience. So likely, if I'm sure I'm going to pick it up at some point because I can get it relatively cheap at this point, including all the DLC and all that. I'll probably be picking up for PS4. So again, I don't have an Xbox One. So this is also my experience at any of the third-party games as well. So, not just looking at the exclusives, is there any other areas you think
God,
like
you're putting me so hard on the spot here.
You love your Monster Hunter games.
Oh yeah, but see, again, this is a thing where I love Monster Hunter. I have probably put about 1,000 hours in the Monster Hunter world. I don't know if I'd recommend it, because it's a game that I really like, but you are either going to love that game or you are going to absolutely hate it, because it's a very specific play style of very like frame oriented, very deliberate movements, and very slow and calculated and methodical. So that's where it becomes hard to recommend some things, because it's not for everyone. And because I know you like the Souls games, but I don't know if that translates 100% to Monster Hunter, because yes, you are fighting these giant bosses, and yes, everything is very deliberate, but because of the online setting and because of the grindiness of it, more than the actual like going through certain levels and like conquering different zones in a Souls game, I don't know if it translates 1-to-1. So that's a solid maybe as far as yourself.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the consideration of, it may not be my style of game. So that's one I might be a little more hesitant on. So right now the plan, I'm going to play through Sekiro. If I end up, just because this game, it's kicking the shit out of me, to be honest with you.
I've heard it's really hard.
It is really hard. I mean, I'm only at the first, I think, big boss, and he's mounted on a horse and I'm on the ground, and it's just not fair. And I know there's more to come. I had to dodge this giant snake that was trying to kill me. So there's a lot going on there.
Have you ever played Doom?
Doom? Not really. That is a series I have not really gotten into.
All right, you should play the first Doom. That is a game that you can find for a cup of coffee right now.
Like the MS-DOS Doom?
No, like the first. Yeah, I guess that's a little weird. The first Doom remake. I think it came out in 2018. No, so not Doom Eternal that came out a few months ago, but the first Doom of this generation. That is a incredible game. I'm just going to list off some of my favorite PS4 games, and then we'll call those recommendations. The Hitman series. If you haven't tried any of those, I think that is, again, something that you can pick up for very cheap. That is a fun take on like the Hitman experience. They decided to take a more like episodic route this time, so all of these levels become like sandboxes, and you're only killing one dude, but there's like 30 different ways to kill said dude.
I really like that.
And everyone's like a different challenge. Like it kind of lays out a checklist of all the different ways that you can do it, and then you level up in that world, in that area. And then you have like a certain level and unlocks in that area. But it's like, okay, here's one thing where you need to poison him, and then another one, there's a specific chandelier that you need to find a sniper vantage point and then shoot the chandelier and drop it on his head. And there's a bunch of like fun story challenges and stuff.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I watched a great video about, criticisms of Red Dead 2. Obviously, Red Dead 2 is a phenomenal game that, again, I should probably pick up. I mean, I will say it's a very impressive game, right?
It's an impressive game.
But one thing that's been lost of recent Grand Theft Auto games is sort of the Breath of the Wild, multiple ways to solve one thing, right? Breath of the Wild shouldn't get all the credit, but it's the most recent example I can think of.
Absolutely.
But, Grand Theft Auto 3, it's by no means a perfect game, but there were definitely more than one way to solve a mission.
It was mostly just because you kind of clown card your way into it.
It's like, okay, you gotta kill a guy. Well, there's no limitations other than, okay, I can just take my car and run him over. I could go up and shoot him, whatever. Like Red Dead 2, things got so scripted that I feel like there was a little, you kind of lost that freedom. So to hear like this Hitman game, it's okay, here's what you got to do, but you do it however you want to figure it out the best way.
It's a world of assassination.
That's the type of game I really like. So
okay, then yes, absolutely. You need to play Hitman then.
Yeah. I'm on board with that. So yeah, these are some great recommendations. You got any others? I'll stop putting you on the spot after this.
God, I'm running
actually,
out
let
here.
me give you a question before I just keep trying to like just squeeze.
Do I need to go downstairs and look at my collection?
Yeah.
Just
No. Let me ask you this instead, like because I'm clearly I'm bleeding the well over here from Key too much. But the RE3 remake, is it worth me buying? Having played the PS1 version, is it worth me playing the RE3 remake?
Not before you play 2. I honestly am. I think that 2 is a better game than 3. I don't think 3 is bad, and I think that it got more criticism than it deserved, but I think it isn't. They made some choices in that game that led it to be an inferior product opposed to the RE2 remake, where they okay, how can I explain this? RE3 was kind of like the original Resident Evil 3 was the more action based answer to Resident Evil 2 with the addition of Nemesis and having more ammo and stuff. They doubled down on that in the RE3 remake, where it is a linear, like a lot of the sequences with Nemesis are very linear and very action oriented to the point where it doesn't feel like survival horror at all. And that was kind of the beauty of the RE2 remake, where it was this like you need to survive experience, especially when you're being chased by Mr. X. That is totally lost in the RE3 remake and very disappointing.
I've also heard
for
it's
that
very
reason.
short.
It is very short. You can beat. They added different ways to make it replayable with different unlocks and stuff. Like they encourage you to play it multiple times, where once you beat the game, you get points, and then you can spend those points in a shop to unlock different things like an unlimited ammo weapons or fun different weapons or like modifiers to go back and play the game again. So there's stuff like that, but I don't think that the choices they made were overly positive ones. So would I recommend it? Yeah, to check out, like if you can find it for cheap, but buy RE2 Remake first, because that is a phenomenal game.
Yeah, it's absolutely on my list, and maybe I can wait a little bit longer on the RE3 remake and hopefully get it at a discount, considering it is like a considerably shorter game.
It will be cheap
and
soon.
You also don't have like the Leon A, Claire B type of things where you can, there's more replayability with RE2 because you can do Claire A, Leon B, all that stuff, right? You can still do that in the new version, right?
Yes and no. It's not as expansive as it used to be, where it is just Leon and Claire, and then the A and B scenarios are identical, if that makes sense. Like if you do Leon A, then Claire B, if you then do Claire A and Leon B, it is the exact same game.
So are you saying the A storyline is the exact same?
No, the Leon storyline and the Claire storyline are identical. It's just whatever order you do them in, you get that experience.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing. So how do they do the ending then? Isn't it like
it's honestly, let's go into RE2 spoilers. It's kind of bullshit, honestly, where they just they cut it out. Like they say like a to be continued on the before they get to like the blob thing, like the blob at the end of the bees. They just do like a to be continued in the next scenario style thing. That's not the exact wordings, but it was a bit of a cop out and kind of sucked.
I see. Oh wow. Okay, so they.
But still, hey, I don't take anything away from RE2 Remake, because that is so like the 30 seconds.
Right, not to get too into the weeds here. So if I do Leon A, right, then at the very end you're at like the reactor thing or whatever the hell it is, right?
Yes.
You're fighting what is his name?
The Tyrant.
The Tyrant, yeah. And then if I did that as Claire A, I would play through the exact same Claire storyline, and I would end up at that same boss fight, right? The tyrant, or
kind of.
All right, we'll save this conversation for another time. I didn't think
the idea of it is yes, but no, in a different way.
It's way more of a headache than I ever thought it was going to be. Okay, so getting back on track, here's my current plan. I've only got 3 games planned right now. I'm starting with Sekiro, as I said, and then it will be The Last of Us 1 and The Last of Us 2. From there, I'm wide open. I know I got a bunch of games in the library, but, RE2 is one maybe I should check out. So that's why I want to open up the conversation. Keith gave me a bunch of great recommendations. I'll stop asking him. He's given me enough, the poor guy. But let us know in the comments, or comments if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know on Twitter at @ACastsPast, or especially we can continue this conversation over at the Discord. It's the best way to talk to any of the 3 of us, Juan, Keith, and myself. You can go check that out at acasttothepast.com/Discord. And it's a great time. A lot of people on there talking about food, video games, wrestling, anything. Right. Juan's also got his own personal channel, Player Juan, and he has a lot of the conversations surrounding his channel there. Mm-hmm. But let me know.
Let's turn this into a game. Let's turn this into a game, because I imagine most people are going to tell you Final Fantasy VII Remake. That is going to be the majority of it. How many people need to tell you Final Fantasy VII Remake in order for you to make that your next game? Pick a number.
I think I need at least 10 people for it to be my exact next game.
All right, comment section, you're up.
Yeah, because I've never fully played the original, but I figured the remake would be a little more accessible for me, given that it's
I
a little
haven't
bit
played
of a
it yet, but I've heard it's phenomenal. And once
so
I have the time to do it, I plan on checking it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to eventually check it out and see kind of the expanded story, the expanded but smaller version of the story, because I know it's in parts. But exactly, we'll continue this conversation in the Discord and comments. Just let us know what PlayStation 4 games you recommend. Maybe there's some even Keith hasn't played. So we're really excited to hear back from you guys. But until next time, this has been another exciting episode of A Cast
to the
Past.
You stole it again.
I did. You were supposed
to. Son of a bee
no.
sting.
Next time.
Once you start it, you can't stop it. So you just kind of have to go with it.
It's true. It's true. You got to do the back and forth.
It's the circle of life. It binds us together. Play RE2.